Genghis Khan, a name that echoes through the corridors of history, a figure of immense power and unparalleled influence. His name alone sent shivers down the spines, a chilling reminder of the Mongol war machine, of kings and peasants alike, from the grandest royal court to the humblest village. Fear of the Mongols was universal. His Mongol horsemen were a living nightmare, a relentless tide of warriors sweeping across the land. Their arrival a sign that everything you knew was about to be destroyed. Homes, families, entire civilizations faced obliteration. But what made this man from the Mongolian steppe so powerful? What was the secret to his terrifying success? It wasn't just his army, though their skill and discipline were unmatched. It was the legend that preceded him, a carefully cultivated image of invincibility. The Mongols mastered psychological warfare, turning fear into their most potent weapon, spreading terror before they even arrived, sowing seeds of panic and despair. Cities faced a brutal choice: surrender and survive, with their lives and possessions spared, or resist and face utter destruction, a fate worse than death. This fear was Genghis Khan's deadliest weapon, more effective than any sword or siege engine. Imagine living behind city walls, the constant dread, the gnawing uncertainty, only to receive a chilling ultimatum: submit or be annihilated. A choice between subjugation and oblivion. Most surrendered, knowing resistance meant certain death, a grim calculation in the face of overwhelming force. Let's journey back to the 13th century, a time of upheaval and unprecedented conquest, to uncover how one man's ambition, his relentless drive, forged an empire out of fear, fire, and blood, leaving an indelible mark on the world. This is the story of Genghis Khan, a name synonymous with conquest and terror. The man who made the world tremble, whose legacy continues to fascinate and horrify us to this day. Before he was again. The Mongol offer was simple: surrender and live, or resist and be destroyed. Envoys delivered this ultimatum to every city: submit, pay tribute, and keep your lives. This tactic sowed fear and division, weakening cities before a single arrow was fired. Those who surrendered were often spared, their cities absorbed into the empire. But defiance brought annihilation: no mercy, no survivors. The Mongols' reputation for keeping their word made surrender tempting. But harming a Mongol envoy was unforgivable, and the response was always catastrophic. This brutal clarity made their conquest swift and devastating. The world watched as city after city fell, not just to swords, but to fear itself. Genghis Khan's genius was making surrender seem like the only sane choice. The Khwarazmian Empire learned the price of defying Genghis Khan. A single insult executing Mongol envoys unleashed a storm of vengeance. Genghis Khan's army swept in from all directions, overwhelming cities with speed and terror. Otrar's governor was executed with molten silver. Samarkand's defenders were slaughtered even after surrendering. Survivors were rare, artisans enslaved, the rest massacred. In Termez, the Mongols ordered the dead cut open for hidden treasures, a chilling symbol of their ruthlessness. Cities that once thrived became silent graveyards. The Mongols' message was clear: defiance would be erased from history. The world had never seen destruction on this scale. The legend of Mongol cruelty spread, making resistance seem hopeless. Fear became their most reliable ally. Genghis Khan, the legendary leader of the Mongol Empire, was not only a brilliant military strategist, but also a master of deception. He understood that psychological warfare was just as important as physical strength on the battlefield. His campaigns were characterized by both calculated destruction and strategic brilliance. The Mongol war machine was designed to instill fear and crush resistance. One of his favorite and most effective tactics was the feigned retreat, a cunning maneuver used to lure unsuspecting enemies into deadly ambushes. This required immense discipline and coordination from his troops. A prime example of this tactic in action was at the Battle of Kalka River. There, the Mongols pretended to flee for days, seemingly disorganized and in full retreat, before turning on their pursuers with a devastating counterattack, completely annihilating them. After securing victory, the Mongols often engaged in brutal displays of power, such as crushing captured princes beneath a banquet table, a gruesome and unforgettable warning to any who dared to oppose them. To further enhance their strategic advantage, Mongol spies were constantly deployed to gather intelligence, while prisoners from conquered cities were forced into servitude, building siege engines and other war machines for the next assault. They also employed various psychological tricks, such as lighting extra campfires and creating artificial dust clouds, all designed to make their armies appear far more numerous and intimidating than they actually were. Every single move, every single decision was meticulously calculated to break the enemy's will and spirit even before the first clash of swords on the battlefield. The Mongols didn't just win through sheer force of arms, they won through the calculated use of fear, intimidation, and cunning strategies. Their enemies were constantly kept off balance, never quite sure what was real, and what was simply an elaborate trap waiting to be sprung. On the battlefield, terror, carefully cultivated and ruthlessly applied, was as deadly and effective as any physical weapon in their arsenal. The Mongols' wrath was a force of nature, an unstoppable storm that obliterated entire cities and reshaped the course of history. Their conquests were not mere military campaigns, they were acts of utter destruction, leaving behind a landscape of devastation and despair. Merv, once a vibrant center of culture, a beacon of science and a jewel of the Silk Road, surrendered under the promise of safety, only to see its people, men, women, and children marched out in endless lines and executed by the thousands in a horrific display of brutality. Urgench, a proud and defiant city, resisted fiercely, holding out against the Mongol onslaught with unwavering courage. But when it inevitably fell after a bloody siege, the Mongols enslaved the survivors, stripping them of their freedom and dignity. And, in an act of utter annihilation, they flooded the city, diverting the river and erasing it from the map, as if it had never existed. In Nishapur, the Mongols sought vengeance, and their retribution was total and absolute. Every living thing, from the smallest insect to the largest animal, was put to the sword, leaving no sign of life behind. This horrific act was carried out after a Mongol princess's husband died in battle, fueling a thirst for revenge that knew no bounds. The Mongols, masters of psychological warfare, built towering pyramids of skulls, a gruesome spectacle designed as stark warnings to any who dared to resist their might. This devastating pattern of destruction relentlessly spread from the heart of Asia, reaching as far as the edges of Europe. Even Baghdad, the crown jewel of the Islamic Golden Age, a city that had stood for centuries, a beacon of knowledge and prosperity, centuries later, ultimately fell to the armies of Genghis Khan's descendants, succumbing to the Mongol war machine. Its invaluable libraries were put to the torch, their precious contents reduced to ashes, its brilliant scholars were mercilessly slaughtered, their wisdom and knowledge lost forever, and its once pristine river ran black with the ink of countless books and red with the blood of its citizens. The Mongols didn't simply conquer territories and subjugate populations, they annihilated entire civilizations, leaving behind a void where thriving societies once stood. Their enduring legacy is a haunting trail of ruined cities, silent witnesses to a brutal past and shattered civilizations, their cultural heritage irrevocably lost to the ravages of war. The world's greatest centers of learning, repositories of knowledge accumulated over centuries, and vibrant cultures, painstakingly built over generations, vanished in a matter of days, consumed by the flames of Mongol conquest. The deep scars of their conquest, a testament to their unparalleled brutality, are still keenly felt today, etched into the very fabric of the lands they once ravaged. Genghis Khan's legacy is a paradox, unimaginable brutality, but also visionary leadership. He united the Mongols, created a code of law, and built a vast communication network across his empire. His armies were disciplined, innovative, and terrifyingly effective. He embraced new technologies and strategies, always adapting to outsmart his enemies. The stories of his cruelty were part of his strategy. Fear saved Mongol lives and conquered cities without a fight. Yet he also connected East and West, paving the way for trade and cultural exchange along the Silk Road. Was he a monster or a genius? The answer is both. Genghis Khan reshaped the world through terror and innovation. His empire left scars but also bridges between civilizations. His story forces us to ask, can greatness and horror exist in the same man?